Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Please subscribe to my channel and like this video for the latest news and updates from around the world. Today, we are diving deep into a critical and fast developing story: Lukashenko's last stand, Belarus's crisis and its global stakes. For nearly 3 decades, Alexander Lukashenko has ruled Belarus with an iron grip, often referred to as Europe's last dictator, but now that grip appears to be slipping. The country is facing one of the most dangerous and uncertain moments in its history, with political unrest, economic pressure, and growing divisions inside its military and government. What happens in Belarus in the coming weeks could have far-reaching consequences, not just for its own people, but for Europe and the world. Belarus has long stood at the crossroads between East and West. Since gaining independence from the Soviet Union in 1991, the country has tried to balance its identity between Russian influence and European aspirations. Lukashenko came to power in 1994, promising stability, order, and economic security. For years, he maintained control by silencing opposition voices, controlling the media, and relying on the loyalty of the security forces. But that loyalty is now being tested as protests, military dissent, and economic collapse converge to create a perfect storm. Lukashenko's government has survived multiple crises in the past, but this time the pressure is unlike anything he has faced before. At the center of the crisis is the growing anger of the Belarusian people. After the disputed 2020 presidential election, which was widely condemned as fraudulent, mass protests erupted across the country. Hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets demanding Lukashenko's resignation. The regime responded with brutal crackdowns, arresting protesters, silencing journalists, and forcing opposition leaders into exile. While the protests eventually subsided under heavy repression, the resentment never disappeared. Many Belarusians see Lukashenko's rule as a betrayal of their democratic aspirations, and the war in Ukraine has only deepened that feeling. Since Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Lukashenko has positioned Belarus as one of Moscow's closest allies. Belarusian territory has been used as a staging ground for Russian troops and missile attacks, making the country complicit in a war that many Belarusians oppose. This has isolated Belarus internationally, brought new Western sanctions, and deepened the nation's dependence on Russia. Inside Belarus, many in the military and political elite are now questioning whether this alliance has gone too far. There are reports of dissatisfaction among officers who feel Belarus has lost its sovereignty and become little more than an extension of the Kremlin's will. That frustration is growing as the economy falters and living conditions worsen. Lukashenko's leadership style has always been rooted in control and fear. He has built a system where power flows entirely from the top down, leaving no room for dissent. But this centralized model is also his greatest weakness. If the loyalty of even a few key institutions, the army, the police, or the intelligence services begins to waver, his entire system could crumble. In recent weeks, rumors have circulated that several senior officials are under investigation for disloyalty. Some have reportedly fled the country, fearing arrest. Others are said to be cooperating secretly with opposition networks. The regime's response has been predictable: more arrests, tighter censorship, and a barrage of propaganda blaming the West for trying to destabilize Belarus. On state television, Lukashenko insists he is in control, portraying himself as the defender of national security against foreign plots. But behind that defiant tone lies a deep sense of insecurity. His reliance on Russian backing has never been greater. Moscow provides loans, fuel, and political support, but at a price. The more Lukashenko depends on the Kremlin, the less independent Belarus becomes. Many analysts believe that if his regime collapses, Russia will act swiftly to ensure Belarus remains in its orbit, possibly through direct intervention. For Vladimir Putin, Belarus is a vital strategic buffer against NATO, and losing it to a pro-Western government would be a major geopolitical setback. At the same time, Western nations are closely watching events in Belarus. The European Union and the United States have condemned Lukashenko's human rights abuses and imposed sanctions, but they also understand that instability in Belarus could have unpredictable consequences. A sudden collapse of the regime could trigger a refugee crisis, draw Russia further into confrontation with the West, or even lead to violent conflict along the EU eastern borders. This makes Belarus's crisis not just a domestic issue, but a regional and global concern. Opposition leaders in exile, like Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, have been calling for a peaceful transition and a democratic future. From neighboring Lithuania, she continues to urge Belarusians, including the armed forces, to stand on the side of the people, not the regime. Her message resonates strongly among younger Belarusians who dream of a free and open society. But fear remains a powerful obstacle. Decades of repression have left deep scars, and many citizens worry that any uprising could lead to chaos or civil war. Lukashenko's propaganda machine amplifies these fears, warning that removing him would bring instability and foreign interference. The situation is further complicated by the global context. As Russia struggles with the prolonged war in Ukraine, its resources and attention are stretched thin. Belarus's instability could be an additional headache for Putin, who relies on Lukashenko to keep the region under control. Some experts argue that the Kremlin might already be preparing for a post-Lukashenko scenario, possibly grooming a new figure who could preserve Russian influence while offering a fresh face to the Belarusian people. Others believe Putin will double down, sending more advisors or troops to secure Lukashenko's regime at any cost. Either way, Belarus's fate is deeply intertwined with the outcome of Russia's war in Ukraine and the broader struggle between democracy and authoritarianism in Eastern Europe. Inside the country, life for ordinary citizens is becoming increasingly difficult. The economy is in decline due to sanctions, inflation is soaring, and access to Western goods and technology has sharply decreased. Many young professionals are leaving the country, seeking opportunities abroad. Those who stay face censorship, surveillance, and a constant sense of fear. Yet, despite the repression, the spirit of resistance remains alive. Underground media, outlets, social networks, and community groups continue to spread information and organize quietly. The people of Belarus have endured so much, and yet they continue to hope for a future without fear. As the crisis deepens, the big question is, how much longer can Lukashenko hold on? His authority rests on three pillars: the loyalty of the military, the support of Russia, and the fear of the population. If any of these pillars weaken, his rule could collapse swiftly. Recent signs suggest that cracks are forming in all three. The military is restless, Russia's patience may be wearing thin, and the Belarusian people have already shown their willingness to rise up. This combination makes the current moment more volatile than ever before. The global stakes are enormous. A power shift in Belarus could alter the strategic balance in Europe, weaken Russia's influence, and inspire democratic movements across the region. But it could also trigger instability, conflict, or even Russian intervention. The world's major powers are watching closely, each with its own interests at play. For the West, a free Belarus represents a victory for democracy. For Russia, it represents a dangerous threat on its border, and for Lukashenko, it represents his last battle, a fight for survival in a world that has largely moved beyond the kind of rule he represents. In the end, Lukashenko's last stand may not just determine the fate of one man, but the direction of an entire nation. Will Belarus finally break free from dictatorship, or will it sink deeper into repression and foreign control? The answer will shape the future of Eastern Europe for years to come. What's clear is that the era of Lukashenko's unchallenged rule is drawing to a close. Whether it ends with a peaceful transition or a violent confrontation remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, the people of Belarus, after decades of silence, have found their voice, and the world is finally listening. Thank you for watching. If you found this analysis informative, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on notifications to stay updated on this and other major global stories. We'll continue to bring you the latest verified information and in-depth insights as the situation in Belarus unfolds. Stay safe, stay informed, and see you in the next video.